Pacers blown out by the Bucks. That's their 6th loss in a row. Holy cow, is something wrong with this team's offense? Their spirit was gone. They need to fix something. We have a lot to discuss on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, happy Christmas Eve, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and today I am still in Cambridge Fieldhouse, where there's a game going on the court that is not Pacers Bucks. It's between younger people. They're having a good time, so I am recording from the concourse where the Pacers, about an hour and a half ago, got smoked by the Bucks. 94 points for the Pacers. Their offense looks awful right now, and this is more than just missing shots like it kind of has been of late. This looks broken. Something looks weird. Something was off with the spirit of this team. I get that it was 3 and 4 nights, but there got to be more of oomph and power and process than that. That was an ugly offensive game for the Pacers, who couldn't score at all until the fourth quarter when they had a nice run with the players you'd expect to be on the floor, but they've got to be better. So much to get to today. Pascal Siakam's post-game comments. What has to be better on the offensive end? Are there any bright spots today? And some other stuff to get to at the end. If you're watching on YouTube, I apologize for my, unfortunately, Bucks green shirt. It is a Christmas shirt, and I did not realize that I'd be wearing exactly Bucks colors. That's on me. Okay. I mean, this game starts and ends talking about offense and scoring. And for a team that had an identity and had a style and could score like crazy and hoped to play that same style, I understand why they can't or haven't been able to with the players available. There was nothing good to talk about offensively for the Pacers, who just scored 34 points and a half against the Celtics. Granted, that was not a good process half, but they shot so poorly that you can understand, like, oh, they generated good looks and missed them. In this game against the Bucks, none of that was happening. The Pacers scored 20 points in the first quarter, 22 in the second. It felt like they might not even get to 22, but they scored a couple baskets right at the end of the second quarter. Jay Huff for 3 with 29 seconds to go. Ben Mathurin jumper with 1:08 to go, and a shot right before that. I mean, they were really, really, really struggling to score early in this game, and it did not. I mean, they were not making anything. Like, I'm not going to tell you that the Pacers were making shots in the first half or anything, but it didn't feel like they were playing the way they wanted. It felt like they were. The way I described it was not action to action, but instead there was just no flow. I'll get to my full notes on it in a second, but it looked really off. And that was something I wanted to dig in with players post-game is, can you tell how much different it feels when things feel off and aren't going well versus things are going well but shots aren't going in? And the answer was basically unanimously, yes, you can tell it's different. And so on offense early, it was a lot of this than that to me, right? The Pacers have gotten so much love, deservedly, the last couple seasons for their flow, action to action, the speed in which they do it and how challenging that is to defend. But when you can't get stops to get into the open floor, and their defense got better as the game went on, and some people call it station to station. It didn't even feel like that to me. Like, it didn't feel like guys were even going to the right spot sometimes. And I'll talk about some ugly plays that prove that later, but it was so much this than that. No action, no flow. It was ugly, ugly, ugly. And then the shot making, of course, was a part of that. But in this game, it felt like the ugly shot making and bad shots were because of the offensive process and not because they were just missing. They started 1 for 8 from 3 and 5 for 17 in general. At one point in this game, if you counted the second half of Pacers Celtics and the first half of Pacers Bucks, the Pacers were 5 for their last 40 from 3. I mean, your offense is going to look ugly when that happens either way, but holy smokes, were they bad. I mean, it felt like for a while, I was like, am I going to be doing the exact same podcast after Pacers Celtics and Pacers Bucks, where this team just can't make anything? The Pacers did show some life and change some stuff, but it was ugly. 21st quarter points, dreadful offense, and then so many of my notes in a row from the second quarter of this game were just like, holy smokes, is this going poorly? I mean, the offense is terrible. The offense is so bad. That's 2 in a row right there. And the Bucks, I didn't even feel like we're playing that well. I bet the Bucks didn't feel like they were playing well. The Bucks hadn't been playing well coming into this game. They lost to Brooklyn by 40-plus points like a week ago, and they weren't even playing that well, and they were up 16. And that was the point where I realized how, I mean, I knew from my notes already, but how broken the Pacers offense was. And then a couple more plays happened that made it feel that way. For example, Jay Huff's 3 that I mentioned right before halftime. He catches it at like the left slot, and he's open, and he looks at the rim, and then he flings it over to the left wing. And that's like that alone as a sequence is not like the end of the world to pass the ball to another player. And it wasn't like he stopped it and then passed it. And he flings it over to Nembhard, and Andrew Nembhard just throws it right back to him. So now J-Huff has it again, and he's less open than he was when he caught it originally. And then he shoots the second one, and he made it. So it feels really odd to critique a make of all plays. But it's like, just shoot. Ben Mathurin gets into the lane. He is the king of shooting when he's open. He's 8 feet from the basket. He got some space, and he kind of pauses. The defense collapses on him. He turns around, takes a tougher shot. It's like, just shoot, guys. Just shoot the ball, and they wouldn't do it. And that was very weird. And they ended up getting barely over 40% from the field in this game, 40.7, thanks to a good fourth quarter. But so ugly, like pulling teeth for them to get to that point early. First quarter, Pacers, 7 for 20, 35%, 1 for 8 from deep, their final stat line. Second quarter, 9 for 23 for 8 from deep. That was big improvements on their way to 24 points. But that quarter is where the other problem started to pop up in this game. The free throws were a mess for the Pacers in this game. One way to overcome some struggles from the field or clunky offense, make your foul shots. They lost this game by 17. They missed 13 free throws. I'm not saying that's why they lost. I actually hate when people say they missed 13 free throws and lost by 17. Yeah, the Bucks also missed free throws, but in a game where offense is your problem, it stands out even more how rough the free throws were. So the first half was just a mess. You think they come out in the third quarter, maybe some more pop. They were actually in the back for halftime for a while. The Bucks were all out on the court. There was like 4.5 minutes to go till halftime when the first Pacer showed up. And then third quarter Pacers were a little better, I suppose. I felt like I could feel their offense doing a little more, but the points weren't really there, right? I felt like they were at least hunting for the right process. But the Bucks were keeping them away. Pacers third quarter, 8 for 21, 1 for 6 from three. I mean, just nothing going on the offensive end tonight for the Pacers. And there were a couple plays that really stood out to me from a process perspective that just stuff was off in this game. And you can see the numbers and know it. You could, if you watch the game, you're going to be like, duh, I saw the numbers. I saw the game. I saw how bad the process was. First one was Quentin Jackson is dribbling to initiate a play with the bench, and he just crosses half court. He's got 1 foot across and 1 foot not, and he tosses it over to Jarris Walker to initiate from the other side, and he throws it too far back, and it's a turnover, backcourt violation. Very desynced play. What is that? The Pacers do that to set up all the time. Just gets a defense shifting a little to the side right when a play starts, something they love, backcourt violation. Then in the second half, they have a baseline out of bounds play. Same thing. They can't get it in. They had 3 inbounds plays. They couldn't get it in. That alone is alarming. On that baseline inbounds play, they throw it into the backcourt, a backcourt violation on a baseline out of bounds play. Huh? No one could get open. They threw it over J-Huff's head. Nembhard double dribbling, crossing half court. That was an ugly turnover, just like the rhythm was goofy on that play. They had a 3-on-1 transition play where they turned it over. That was goofy rhythm. And the one that made me understand that something weird was kind of happening, there were 2 plays in this game where noticeably someone did not know the play, what was happening. So one of them, Nembhard is coming across half court, and you can see Rick Carlisle kind of pointing. And I guess Ethan Thompson was maybe supposed to come to Nembhard or vice versa. And something got out of whack, and Kevin Porter Jr. fouled Andrew Nembhard. And so Carlisle's like, guys, what's going on? What are we doing? And those two, Thompson and Nembhard, chat at midcourt, and then the Pacers run their possession. And then one defensive play later, Ethan Thompson is subbed out for Quentin Jackson. So that made me think Thompson was the one who didn't know what was going on. But it was like, huh? Did someone not know the play there? What actually happened? Then with 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the third quarter, Garrison Matthews is in the corner, and Jarris Walker's pointing, trying to get him to come up from the corner, and Matthews clears out to the opposite corner. And maybe he didn't know the play, maybe he did. There were just so many plays that I thought, man, do they not, like, does someone not? I get Thompson's newer. He's been on the team for over 3 weeks now, right? Garrison Matthews, same thing. He's been on the team for over 3 weeks, and they got signed the same day, I think, or one day apart. Like, if they're not knowing the plays, that's not great. And I get that they're newer, but it just all felt so clunky and off and difficult for the Pacers in this game offensively in a way that it has at times this season, but not for as long as it did in this game. I'll give them credit, and I'll talk about this later. Their fourth quarter was better. They relied on their best guys for over 10 minutes of an already decided game to get it there, but it did feel better in the fourth quarter. But, man, was it ugly for a while. They have got to sort this out. I mean, the second half in Boston was what it was. And so everybody, and even me, said, oh, the Boston game was a hot shooting half and a horrible shooting half. That maybe is true, but if you want to say that the fluke was the first half, that'd be 3 straight ugly offensive games, a Knicks game with pretty good offense, and then a horrible offensive game against the Wizards. Pacers offense looks horrible right now. Last 3 games, the Pacers offensive rating is 98.3. Below 100 is absurdly bad. That is obviously 30th in the NBA. For example, the Bucks, who the Pacers played tonight, are at 107.1. That's 8 points better. That's 5th worst in that same stretch. Huh? How? And the Pacers defense has been good enough in this stretch, 13th in the league in those last 3 games, and they've lost all 3, obviously. Last 5 games, so you're dating back also to the game they played against Washington at home where they scored, I believe, under 100 for the first time since 2022. They just did that again, so that streak has now been really busted. Last 5 games for the Pacers, their offensive rating is 101.4. That is obviously last in the NBA. Like, it's been dreadful. I guess I should just do 6. I didn't even look this one up. For the whole losing streak, I would assume it's going to be, and it is. It's last, 102.2. Their offense is awful right now. They're not making shots. The rhythm is off. Something is just not working. They have 2 days off to maybe fix things and maybe feel a little better on that end of the floor. Their spirit's not there. Pascal Siakam, very revealing comments about that post-game. And speaking of Siakam, so much more to get to from this game. The fourth quarter, some other stuff that was clunky to be on offense in this game, the notebook eventually, the center rotation that was very revealing of a potential transaction to keep your eye out for, and so much more coming here on Locked On Pacers. Before we get to any of that, I need to talk to you guys about PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, Christmas coming up, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while everybody's making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. The easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup. You're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in in 45 states, not all 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. They have an extra layer of excitement added to the holiday sports schedule by creating a lineup, which takes less than a minute. The app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats, fantasy score, field goals attempted, free throws made, whatever. The early payout feature is a great bonus. If you start strong, great, cash out early. The stacks feature lets you choose the same player up to 3 times. Deposits and withdrawals are quick and easy, which keeps everything flowing. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after that first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen, of course, should be Locked On Bucks. They'll talk about a win for the Bucks who need any non-Giannis win. He was actually at this game today, and anything else that they feel like went well for the Bucks in this game. They might talk about the Bucks defense, which maybe was okay. Ryan Rollins was good. Kevin Porter was good. No one else really popped for the Bucks to me, but their defense certainly wasn't nothing in what they prevented the Pacers from doing. The rim defense, I thought, for the Bucks was pretty good. All their bigs did a good job around the basket, and the Pacers, 40 points in the paint. That's pretty low, but I thought they mostly just played okay, and the Pacers played awful. Speaking of defense, I don't know if the Pacers have played or defended poorly a lot recently. They defended pretty well against New York. They defended okay against Boston. In this game, they concede an okay amount of points. Their defense in New Orleans obviously stands out as poor, but in general, in this 6-game losing streak, I have not felt like their defense is the problem. Neither do the players, who feel like okay about the defensive end of the court, at least when we're talking to them post-game. However, I think one area where they've slipped the most when their defense looks the worst in these last couple games is the paint defense. 30 points in the paint in the first half for the Bucks in this game, who that's where they're going to score. They don't have a ton of shooters. They finished with 52, so the Pacers clearly cleaned that up, but that was very poor. They have to find a way to improve defensively a little bit. That's some combination of guard your yard and paint pressure and rotating and communication. And again, I don't think this has been their worst end of the floor, but it has been alarming how many times it feels like for just a stretch where their offense finally clicks. All they have to do is get going a little bit on the defensive end, and they just can't. They just cannot do it. For example, in the first half of this game, with absolutely no offense to Garrison Matthews, I don't even think Garrison Matthews would tell you defense is a strength of his, and we'll have to talk about him maybe tomorrow, maybe later today. We'll see. Gary Harris turned the corner on him. Gary Harris is older and not very fast, and it was easy. Gary Harris plus 20 game high in this game. He just got to the basket with ease. Maybe it's a hometown thing, but some of that stuff is like, come on, that's got to be better in this game. Okay, a couple other things I want to get to from this one that were either good or bad process-wise. Then I want to talk about the centers, a goofy lineup, Johnny Furphy. That was actually good. Ethan Thompson again. I keep talking about him, and I don't feel like this has been being talked about like enough generally. I don't even think he's been bad. I think Ethan Thompson should be in the Pacers rotation right now. He can score. He is somewhat effective. He does not mess up all that much. Like, that's all good stuff. He was a +1 in this game in 26 minutes. He was 1 for 7. He was 1 for 4 from deep. 5 rebounds is good. 2 steals, 2 blocks. That's good. Like, I don't want to tell you that he played terrible. But again, nobody guards him. He is always pretty open. His man is always sagging into the paint and forcing Pacers drivers to get off of it. And for a Pacers team that is really struggling with points in the paint again, if you look at their game logs of late, you can see poor points in the paint numbers. 28 against Boston, 40 in this game, 42 against the Knicks, 38 against the Wizards, and 40 against the Sixers. The Pelicans game, all right, they got in there. That's it. Like, they need more spacing. They need more dynamic play. I still think I would be starting Quentin Jackson. I thought that in Boston might have been a switch to the starting 5 to have Jackson be the backup point guard with McConnell out, but McConnell was back in this game, and they still started Ethan Thompson. Again, Ethan Thompson should be playing. I think even on youth or merit, he has been should be in the mix of 10 guys, but starting him does not make sense to me. And I even think like Garrison Matthews sticks on the team. Like, I know that this sounds crazy because he did not play well in this game, but like, just give it a shot. At least he is defended. Maybe that spacing would help the rest of the guys look better, make the process look better. They need to figure out some offensive changes. I don't think Furphy gives you that kind of spacing, even though he's playing better. It's either got to be the dynamic natures you get from Quentin Jackson or the shooting you get from Garrison Matthews, because they're getting nothing, neither of those things from Ethan Thompson, who, again, I keep wanting to stress this. I don't want anyone to think I'm saying he's a bad player or that his minutes are too high or anything like that. I don't feel that way. But when the lineup isn't working to this extent and the offense feels this clunky, something's got to change there. Ben Mathurin was rolling early. I'm kind of doing notebooky offense stuff here for a sec. Ben Mathurin was rolling a little bit early. He finished 3 for 10. It was a quieter game from him, although he got 6 free throws up and had 6 boards. Because he got going in off-ball actions. That was his first and only made 3. It was from a play where he kind of curled out along the baseline. Teams are getting better at defending those. And I think for a guy that can't drive as much right now because of his toe, off-ball actions, getting him jumpers is the easiest way to get him in the flow, and that's been really hurting him. Another part of their offense as well is that the scouting has improved on how to slow down those particular plays. And I think that has been very, very noticeable at times in this game. One player I thought did stuff on offense that continuously created success, and that is the guy who missed the last game with an injury, so he wasn't playing on a back-to-back. TJ McConnell was perhaps the only consistent offensive bright spot. Siakam was 15 points on 10 shots and had 9 boards. He played very well, obviously. Compared to expectations, TJ McConnell was definitely that guy. He was 7 for 9, excellent, with 16 points and 6 assists. He did have 2 turnovers, but he was the only guy, and how many times has this been the case for the Pacers when he's been on the roster for the last, 7 or 8 years? He's the only guy who could get in the paint with any sort of consistency. A lot of teams struggle with him there, but he would wiggle along the baseline, and that would open up something for somebody else or force the defense to rotate in a way that nobody else could really create that kind of pressure. And he can do it against any defense without much spacing, without the greatest optimized lineup around him. And that's very noteworthy, right? Like, there's a moment where I look up and I'm like, McConnell, Thompson, Furphy, Walker, and Wiseman are on the floor. And I'm like, how is this group going to score, right? And to be clear, like, very short time after that, Quentin Jackson and Andrew Nembhard checked in for that group. So, like, they got more shot creation on the floor. But McConnell can sometimes just be enough. He can get in the lane enough that guys are going against tilted or cracked defenses. He was creating success in this game, right? And that is something the Pacers can learn from. I'm not saying maybe this is worth considering. Do they start McConnell next to Nembhard and Mathurin? Is that something worth trying? It would really destroy their bench. But he was good in this game. He was like their only consistent. Most of his touches were actually leading to some form of offensive success in this game. And that's something that the Pacers really need to lean on. And that really inspired what I thought was their only good stretch of play in this game, this fourth quarter run. And the Bucks were turning it over, so the defense was better too, and certainly a part of this. But this fourth quarter run where the Pacers start the quarter down 25-ish in the third quarter. I think they early in the fourth were down 20. They got it all the way down to 9 in the fourth, and it felt like for a second, oh boy, like they actually have a chance. They've done this against the Bucks before. The momentum is 1,000% on their side. It was 90-98. Bucks took a timeout and immediately kind of recovered from that. But the whole fourth quarter, the competitive part, 4 guys are on the floor, and that is TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, Pascal Siakam, and Ben Mathurin. Ethan Thompson came in and out with, I believe, Johnny Furphy for portions of that quarter, but they really, really rolled with those 4. McConnell came out for Thompson, for part of that, and then came back in at one point. That was the group that they felt like gave them the chance, and those guys did play well. McConnell, obviously, part of that. getting it down. They were doing a one-lash push thing, but the offense was capable. They scored 26, much more in that quarter. Some of that was McConnell. Some of that was Johnny Furphy's defense. We'll talk about him in this final segment with some cross-matching. He was guarding Miles Turner. Like, it was legitimately impressive play. They got it to 9. Like, that's great. Fourth quarter, Pacers, 9 for 20 from the field. They made 3 threes. They kept their turnovers down. The Bucks had a lot of them, but the Bucks figured it out late to get it done. Still noteworthy that McConnell plus those top 3 guys was a good group. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe it's that simple if they want to start with Huff. But the other noteworthy thing they did then was they went small, and the center rotation, they've closed 2 games in a row without a nominal center on the floor. I want to talk about the centers. I want to talk about Tony Bradley playing with a brace in this game, a couple other notes and things to get to from a roster perspective. Coming up to close out today's Locked On Pacers. Before we do any of that, I want to talk to you guys about Game Time. During basketball season, there is nothing like being in the building, the energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everyone on their feet that happened in the fourth quarter tonight. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets. Fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward and intuitive. Finding tickets takes just a few taps. Seeing the view from your seat before you buy makes you confident in what you're getting. Their zone deals unlock great seats at better value. You see the price with all the fees right up front, so you're not surprised at the end. Whether it's an NBA game or another live event, everything is right there in one place. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Second listen, Mavs Nuggets was an awesome game. Came down to the last shot. Mavs win. Cooper Flag looks great. Locked On Mavs will have more on that. Or Locked On Nuggets for the final play, going to Peyton Watson instead of Jokic, although it was a great pass from Jokic. And Cam Johnson getting hurt. That did not look good. Knee injuries, scary. Yikes. Locked On Nuggets with more. I would hate that. I would hate if a contender lost a starter for a while. And I'm going to plug a lot of shows. Spurs Thunder was awesome again. Locked On Spurs. They deserve your attention. They beat the Thunder twice this month, and we'll play them again tomorrow. Okay. A couple more things to get to from this game. One, this is a silly note, but this is my way of springboarding into the centers. James Wiseman played good. He should. He was their backup center with Isaiah Jackson out. Isaiah Jackson has a concussion. That was James Wiseman's first regular season home game with the Pacers. It made me a little sad for his injury last year. It just stinks that this. I'm glad it happened for him, but that was his first one. However, centers were not effective again. Second game in a row. Jay Huff goes 3 for 7. He's not making threes right now. He had more assists than made threes. He had as many assists as made shots. That's not good or bad. It just kind of blew my mind. His defense teams are figuring out how to make him work away from the perimeter a bit. For a while, when the Pacers defense looked really good, when they won 4 of 6, they figured out how to keep Huff around the basket. He was doing a good job. Now he's spread out a little bit. He has 2 games in a row without getting 2 blocks. That streak has gone in the opposite direction. And Wiseman just didn't do a whole ton in his 12 minutes of play. He did make his only shot to his credit. I'm not trying to bash him or anything. He was not on any team or in NBA shape, according to Rick Carlisle. When he joined the team, he's been fine, like what you'd expect, but neither of them were good enough in this game. And 2 things proved that. One is in a game where he had a fractured thumb and they don't have to turn to him. They turned to Tony Bradley for real minutes during the competitive portion of the game with his thumb brace on, right? That felt very telling that they played him over Huff and Wiseman in those moments. And 2 is, again, crunch time. Then they're trying to figure out what's the best 5 on the floor for a comeback. In Boston, it was the same thing. Who's the best 5 on the floor to give the Pacers a chance to win? And they go no center. They go with Siakam and someone else next to them. It was Jarris against Boston. That obviously did not work. Walker's not very good. It was Furphy against Milwaukee, and Furphy actually was pretty good in that closing group. Furphy, again, we'll get to him. He was probably the second bright spot besides TJ McConnell. That's very telling. It's very interesting to me that recently center by committee has meant no center. Of late, very telling for their needs at the trade deadline, which has been discussed a million times. But, I mean, the fact that they would do that just is shocking. And I wonder if a center move is coming. Just keep an eye on this with Tony Bradley, thumb injury, and Isaiah Jackson, concussion. They have 1 limited big, 1 concussed big. Wiseman's hardship contract is now over, so it will be over on Christmas, after Christmas, so he will have no more days available to play. I don't know if they'll get another hardship contract. They certainly won't be eligible for one. unless somebody unexpected gets hurt in the future. So if they need a center to play in the short term, they'd have to waive somebody. Would they waive Tony Bradley for a different healthy big? I would not be doing that. I mean, it's not, we're getting so close to the cut down deadline. I'll talk more about center moves tomorrow. Would they waive Garrison Matthews, who wasn't in the rotation at all in Boston, to bring in a big for a little bit on a non-guaranteed deal for like maybe? I mean, this is just stuff that they should be considering given their current health at center, although Siakam at the 5 seems to be just fine. So it's not like a requirement that they do it, but I would be keeping my eye on that if I were you. I think that'd be smart for the Pacers to do, especially if they could get another stretch big or something that could just give them more types of bigs to look at. Obviously, Huff can do that, but he has not played particularly well. So keep an eye on the center moves in this game. Some other notes that I want to get to. One is the Pacers played bad, and I also did. If you follow me on Twitter, I apologize for my billion typos during this game, including using the wrong there at one point. I really just want to talk about that because I'm really embarrassed by that. Okay, thing 2. At halftime of the game, the Pacers had 44 points. That meant for the last 4 quarters of play that they had, the second half in Boston and the first half against the Bucks, they had scored 78 points in an NBA game, albeit 2 different games. 78 points. It was 119-78 across their last 4 quarters at that point. Holy smokes, is that bad? They were at 33% from the field and 5 for 36 from deep. I know it recovered by the end of the game, but that is like a blaring alarm of offensive issues that just have to be figured out in some way. I mean, they have to. They may have to tweak something lineup-wise or even, how they're playing-wise to make it work because it was just brutal. It was just brutal. Note number 2 I want to get to here, the second positive besides McConnell, Johnny Furphy again, continuing to finally emerge a little bit, come out of his shell as a player after returning from injury and just kind of being a guy on the floor. You didn't really feel him. That's fine. Like he was returning from injury. He's barely been in a rotation in his career before this season. 3 boards. He's good as a rebounder for his size. 3 for 7 from the field, including 3 for 5 on twos. The fact that he even got up 5 twos was impressive. For 6 points, he had a very powerful finish for an and one that I thought was good. He's got to add some oomph, some pizzazz to his game there. He was cross-matching on a center defensively. I apologize if you can hear these loud things rolling through the concourse, and that was really good at disrupting the game flow. He was defending Turner, which is easier when Miles Turner is on the perimeter, and that was like a sort of successful alignment for the Pacers group. So he had some defensive successes again. That's where he's been the most consistently noticeably good of late. His rebounding is always solid, and he's making shots now a couple games in a row. He's got to keep playing. Rick Carlisle said post-game, quote, "I like Furphy very much. He's an easy player to like." That was basically the only positive thing anybody should have and was willing to talk about post-game was Johnny Furphy. And good for him. He's earned it. He's got to keep playing because of youth in general, but he actually should be keep playing right now because he's earning the minutes with success. My last notes from the game. If you have the time today, whatever you're doing, please, I would recommend anyone listen to Pascal Siakam's post-game press conference and tell me, A, that these guys don't care, or B, that this is easy for them, or C, that they're tanking. I mean, Rick Carlisle, listen to his answers too. You will immediately realize that they're not. They're just playing awful, one, and it hurts them quite badly. I mean, Siakam was like dispirited to a new degree after this game, as he should be. They played bad. He didn't even play so awesome, but he felt like the defense was okay to solid, but the offense was just so bad. And the mistakes for this team snowball. And that's kind of what my theory has been, but it was very interesting to hear a player kind of describe it, where like a mistake happens and that gets a guy to sulk, or that makes someone else think they need to do better or do something different to make up for that mistake. And that all sounds fine and dandy, but it just leads to more and more mistakes. And so once a couple happen in a row, they really cannot control it. Nathan, who used to write for Indy Cornrows, tweeted during the game at one point. I think it was the third quarter. I can't remember. I'm trying to find the retweet. Yeah, it was like in the third quarter that they had only scored on 3 possessions in a row one time in the game. Just a lot going poorly for the Pacers. Listen to Siakam talk about it. Quote, "It's got to matter. That's the only way out of it," unquote, was something he said. I thought that was very telling. Thank you guys so much for listening today. Man, is this team not playing very well right now? We'll be back tomorrow for a Christmas Day show talking about something that Jake Fisher just reported, not about the Pacers, but about a different team that I actually think is very interesting and telling when it does come to the Pacers. We'll talk more about potential center moves, or if that's something that even makes sense for the Pacers, what that could even functionally look like tomorrow, and something else that I come up with. We'll probably dive in to lineup data now because that is something I typically do during this Christmas break, and maybe we will actually have a guest after Christmas for the 26th. We'll see then right back into a back-to-back. Man, this team is playing a lot of games right now. You can find me on social media at Tony R. Reese and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. Signing off from this fever background of the Gainbridge Fieldhouse Concourse. This is Tony East with Locked On Pacers. Have a Merry Christmas, everybody. See you very soon.